Start with purpose, not position. Leadership does not begin with the title on your door or the authority granted by an organization. Leadership begins with purpose. A title may give you power over tasks, but it will never give you influence over hearts. Influence is earned when people understand what drives you, why you get up every morning, and why your work matters. Purpose is the foundation that transforms a person with authority into a leader people want to follow. When you lead with purpose, you shift the focus away from yourself and onto something greater. People don't want to rally around a manager. They want to rally around a mission. They don't want to be pushed to work harder. They want to be pulled forward by a vision that feels meaningful. A position can demand compliance, but only purpose inspires commitment. Think about the difference between a boss who says, "Do this because I said so," and a leader who says, "Here's why this matters." The first creates obedience, the second creates ownership. Ownership is the seed of excellence because when people feel connected to a deeper reason, they give more of themselves than a paycheck requires. Titles fade quickly in the minds of others. Most people forget your job title after you leave the room, but they will remember the clarity of your purpose. They will remember how you made them feel about the work, how you connected their effort to a cause larger than themselves. That memory outlasts position because purpose lives in the heart. Purpose is also what sustains a leader when challenges come. Positions are fragile. Someone else can always take the seat you're in. But purpose is untouchable. It keeps you steady when markets shift, when plans collapse, when the future feels uncertain. People will follow a leader who doesn't just hold a role, but holds onto something that cannot be shaken. A position can make people listen to you once, but purpose makes them want to listen to you again. It creates an invisible bond that turns employees into believers, teams into movements, and work into meaning. Leaders who start with position create followers who wait for instructions. Leaders who start with purpose create followers who become leaders themselves. The great paradox is that the higher you climb with purpose, the less your position matters. The people around you stop caring about the title you carry because they feel the clarity of the mission you serve. They don't admire you for your authority. They trust you for your conviction. That trust is what transforms ordinary groups into extraordinary teams. To start with purpose is to lead from the inside out. It is to invite others not just to do the work, but to believe in it. When people see that your leadership is grounded in something deeper than status, they will not only follow you, they will stand beside you. Trust is the currency of leadership. Leadership cannot function without trust. Without trust. You can hire skill, you can assign responsibility, you can enforce rules, but none of it matters if trust is missing. Trust is the invisible currency that allows people to move forward together. It's not written in contracts or captured in job descriptions. It's earned, nurtured, and reinforced through actions, not words. Trust is built in small moments. It's built when you keep your promises, even the small ones. It's built when you listen fully, not just to respond, but to understand. It's built when you show up consistently, especially when things are difficult. A leader's credibility doesn't come from the size of their role, but from the reliability of their character. Without trust, fear fills the space. Fear of judgment, fear of being overlooked, fear of making mistakes. When fear takes hold, creativity dies, collaboration shrinks, and excellence becomes impossible. People retreat into self-preservation instead of leaning into contribution. A leader's real job is to replace fear with trust so people can give their best without holding back. Trust also requires vulnerability. When leaders pretend to have all the answers, they create distance. But when leaders admit uncertainty, ask for help, or acknowledge mistakes, they create closeness. Vulnerability signals humanity, and humanity invites connection. People trust leaders who show they are human, not flawless. Consistency is the heartbeat of trust. It's not enough to inspire people with grand speeches. It's the repeated alignment of words and actions that proves your integrity. If you say you value honesty, your team watches to see how you respond when the truth is hard to hear. If you say you care about people, they notice whether you prioritize their growth over short-term gain. Every moment becomes a test of whether your actions match your values. Trust cannot be demanded. It must be given to you willingly. And people don't give trust to authority. They give it to character. They don't measure you by your title. They measure you by your behavior. Every decision you make is either a deposit or a withdrawal from the bank of trust. Leaders who guard that account carefully become rich in loyalty. The strength of a team is not determined by talent alone, but by the trust that binds it together. A brilliant group without trust will crumble under pressure, while an ordinary group with deep trust can achieve extraordinary results. Trust doesn't just make people work better. It makes them believe in each other. And that belief is the foundation of excellence. When people trust their leader, they stop looking over their shoulder and start looking toward the horizon. They stop questioning motives and start aligning with vision. Alignment vision. They stop working for you and start working with you. Trust transforms leadership from control into cooperation, and from obligation into devotion. Serve. Don't command leadership is often mistaken for being in charge, giving orders, and holding authority. But true leadership is not about command. It is about service. The greatest leaders flip the pyramid upside down. They don't ask, "How can people serve me?" But instead, "How can I serve the people?" This shift changes everything because service creates loyalty, while command creates compliance. When leaders choose service, they stop seeing people as resources and start seeing them as human beings with dreams, struggles, and potential. They recognize that their responsibility is not to extract more from their team, but to invest more into them. Service means asking what others need to thrive, and then creating the conditions for that to happen. Command seeks obedience. Service seeks growth. Obedience might deliver results in the short term, but growth builds excellence in the long term. When you serve people, you're not just managing their tasks, you're nurturing their confidence, their skills, and their belief in themselves. That investment multiplies, because people who feel valued give more than what's required. Service does not mean weakness. It does not mean giving in to every demand or avoiding hard decisions. Serving means caring enough to hold people to high standards while equipping them with the support to reach those standards. A servant leader is firm when necessary, but their firmness comes from care, not control. Not control. Command isolates the leader at the top, but service pulls the leader into the middle of the team. Instead of being distant, you become accessible. Instead of demanding respect, you earn it. When people feel their leader is beside them, not above them, they respond with greater trust, commitment, and effort. Service builds a culture where leaders and teams move forward together. The heart of service is empathy. It's the ability to put yourself in the shoes of those you lead and ask, "What would I need in this situation?" It's about listening deeply and caring genuinely. Empathy transforms the workplace from a place where people only work for paychecks into a place where they feel supported and understood. That emotional connection fuels excellence more than commands ever could. Serving also means removing obstacles. Great leaders don't just cheer from the sidelines. They roll up their sleeves to clear the path. Whether it's eliminating bureaucracy, protecting the team from unnecessary pressure, or securing resources, leaders who serve remove barriers, so their people can focus on doing their best work. That act of service says, "Your success matters more than my comfort." Command creates followers who wait for instructions, but service creates leaders who take initiative. When people feel served, they don't just follow the vision, they carry it forward themselves. They become empowered, resilient, and inspired to serve others in turn. This ripple effect of service spreads through teams, shaping a culture where leadership is not about control, but about lifting one another higher. Inspire by example, not expectation. People don't follow what leaders say nearly as much as they follow what leaders do. Words can motivate for a moment, but actions inspire for a lifetime. A leader who demands excellence without embodying it creates resentment, but a leader who models excellence creates a standard people willingly rise to meet. Inspiration is not spoken into existence, it is lived into reality. When leaders lead by example, they set a tone that cannot be ignored. If you want a culture of accountability, you must first hold yourself accountable. If you want honesty, you must be radically honest. If you want resilience, you must show how you get back up after setbacks. The example you live becomes the silent teacher that shapes how others show up. Expectation without example is hypocrisy. People can sense when leaders preach values they don't practice. That disconnect erodes trust and kills motivation. On the other hand, when leaders live their values consistently, even when it is inconvenient or costly, it communicates integrity. Integrity inspires people far more deeply than demands ever could. Leadership, by example, also humanizes authority. When people see their leader working hard, taking responsibility, and staying humble, it removes the invisible wall between the boss and the team. They realize their leader is not above them, but with them. This sense of togetherness fuels commitment far stronger than a list of expectations ever will. Example also sparks courage. When leaders take risks, admit mistakes, or embrace change, they give permission for others to do the same. Courage is contagious, but only if someone goes first. A leader's willingness to step into discomfort becomes the spark that ignites bravery across the entire team. Great leaders understand that their example is magnified. Every decision, every action, every reaction is observed and absorbed by those they lead. That awareness should not create pressure to perform, but a responsibility to live authentically. The small daily choices matter as much as the big moments, because they reveal what the leader truly values. Living by example also shifts the culture from compliance to inspiration. Instead of people asking, "Oh, what will happen if I don't do this?" they begin asking, "How can I live up to the standard my leader shows every day?" That shift is powerful because it creates internal motivation rather than external pressure. People no longer need to be pushed. They are pulled forward by inspiration. The most enduring impact of leading by example is that it multiplies leadership. When people are inspired by what they see, they don't just admire it, they emulate it. One person's example becomes many people's behavior. Over time, that creates a culture where leadership is not a position held by one, but a responsibility shared by all. Create safety for risk and failure. Excellence cannot exist without risk, and risk cannot exist without the possibility of failure. If people feel they will be punished, humiliated, or discarded for making mistakes, they will never take risks worth taking. They will choose safety over innovation, compliance over creativity. A leader's role is to build an environment where failure is not feared but understood as part of growth. When leaders create psychological safety, they give people permission to try. Permission to experiment, to question, to step into the unknown. Safety does not mean lowering standards. It means creating the freedom to explore new ways of meeting those standards without fear of shame. Progress has always been born out of trial and error, never out of rigid perfection. Leaders who punish mistakes create silence. In silence, ideas die before they are spoken. Creativity is stifled before it's explored, and potential is wasted before it's realized. But leaders who treat mistakes as stepping stones create voices. In that space, people are willing to share ideas, to challenge assumptions, and to push boundaries that lead to breakthroughs. Safety is not built by words alone. It's proven by reactions. When someone fails, people watch closely to see how the leader responds. If the response is ridicule or blame, fear spreads instantly. If the response is curiosity and support, trust deepens. Every response to failure sends a message about whether it is safe to try again. Creating safety also means sharing your own failures as a leader. When you admit where you've stumbled, you show others that imperfection is not a disqualifier. Instead of creating distance, it creates connection. People learn that failure is not the end of the journey, but often the beginning of wisdom. Vulnerability from a leader transforms failure from something to hide into something to learn from. In an environment of safety, people stretch themselves. They volunteer for challenges they might otherwise avoid. They bring bold ideas that might otherwise stay hidden. They collaborate openly because they know mistakes won't be weaponized against them. This kind of culture unlocks potential that command and control leadership can never touch. Safety does not mean comfort. It means courage. It's not about shielding people from the reality of risk, but giving them the confidence that if they fall, they will not fall alone. It means they know their leader stands with them, not over them. That assurance fuels bravery, and bravery is the soil where excellence grows. A culture that celebrates learning over perfection becomes unstoppable. Each failure becomes data, each setback becomes fuel, and each risk becomes a step closer to innovation. When people know it is safe to risk, they no longer play not to lose, they play to win. Elevate others' strengths. Leadership is not about being the smartest person in the room. It is about creating a room where everyone's strengths are seen, valued, and unleashed. Too many leaders focus on correcting weaknesses, But the true power of leadership lies in recognizing what people do best and giving them space to amplify it. Excellence emerges when individuals are celebrated for their unique contributions. When leaders elevate strengths, they shift from comparison to collaboration. Instead of asking people to fit a mold, they allow people to bring their authentic talents forward. This builds confidence, and confidence fuels performance. People who feel seen for what they do well are far more likely to stretch themselves, take ownership, and grow in areas they didn't think possible. Elevating strengths is not about ignoring weaknesses. It is about reframing them. A weakness often reveals where someone should not be forced to focus, while their strengths reveal where they can thrive. Great leaders know that trying to make everyone equally good at everything creates mediocrity, but investing in strengths creates mastery. The act of elevating strengths is also deeply relational. It requires leaders to observe, to listen, and to know their people as individuals. This takes time and intentionality. You cannot elevate what you do not recognize, and you cannot recognize what you do not care to see. Leadership is personal before it is organizational. When people are placed in roles that align with their strengths, they don't just perform better, they feel more fulfilled. Work becomes less of a burden and more of an opportunity to contribute meaningfully. Leaders who create this alignment not only improve results, but also build a culture where people are energized rather than drained by their responsibilities. Elevating strengths also means celebrating them publicly. Recognition reinforces value, and when people see their contributions acknowledged, they feel more motivated to keep giving their best. Celebration turns individual strengths into collective pride, and that pride spreads through teams like wildfire. A culture that elevates strengths becomes resilient. In moments of challenge, people naturally lean into their gifts, knowing that those gifts are trusted and needed. Teams begin to complement one another, filling gaps not with competition, but with contribution. This creates unity, where diversity of skill is not just tolerated but treasured. When leaders dedicate themselves to elevating others' strengths, they multiply capacity far beyond what they could achieve alone. They stop being the central figure of success and instead become the catalyst of success in others. That shift transforms leadership from a position of control into a position of empowerment, and it is in empowerment that true excellence is born. Consistency builds belief. Leadership is not defined by what you do once. It is defined by what you do repeatedly. Inspiration can be sparked in a moment, but belief is built over time through consistency. People may be impressed by a leader's passion or words, but they are convinced only when those words are reinforced day after day by aligned actions. Consistency transforms leadership from performance into credibility. Consistency creates trust because it removes uncertainty. When people know how their leader will show up, they feel secure. They don't waste energy guessing at motives or questioning integrity. Instead, they focus on the work, confident that their leader is reliable. Inconsistency, on the other hand, breeds hesitation. It makes people wonder if today's values will still matter tomorrow. It is not the grand gestures that build belief, but the small, steady actions repeated over time. Showing up on time, keeping promises, honoring commitments, these are the bricks of consistency. One missed promise might be forgiven, but a pattern of unreliability erodes credibility. Great leaders understand that consistency is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Consistency also shapes culture. Teams model themselves after what they repeatedly see in their leaders. If a leader is consistently respectful, respect becomes the norm. If a leader consistently prioritizes growth, growth becomes embedded in the team's DNA. Culture is not created by slogans. It is created by repeated behaviors that reinforce what truly matters. Even in times of change, consistency is vital. Change is unsettling, but when leaders remain steady in their principles, people feel anchored. They may not know what tomorrow holds, but they know who their leader will be. That stability allows them to face uncertainty with confidence instead of fear. Consistency also reveals authenticity. Anyone can appear committed for a moment, but only genuine conviction can be sustained over time. A leader who consistently acts with integrity proves that their values are not situational, but foundational. People may not always agree with every decision, but they will believe in the leader's sincerity. Consistency requires discipline. It is easier to let emotions dictate reactions, to cut corners when no one is watching, to speak values but not live them. But discipline separates leaders who inspire belief from those who merely inspire doubt. Discipline in small things signals reliability in big things, and reliability is the essence of leadership credibility. When people experience consistency, they begin to believe not just in their leader, but in themselves and in the mission they share. They no longer question whether the vision is real, because they see it embodied daily. Belief becomes contagious, spreading through teams and shaping an environment where excellence feels not only possible but inevitable. Legacy is measured in people, not achievements. The true measure of leadership is not the size of your accomplishments, but the lives you impact along the way. Buildings crumble, profits fade, and awards gather dust, but the influence you leave on people endures. Legacy is not built on what you achieve for yourself, but on what you build into others. Achievements can make you impressive, but people make you unforgettable. The way you made someone feel, the belief you sparked in them, the growth you encouraged, these are the things that stay long after titles are forgotten. Leadership is not about being remembered for what you did, but for who you helped others become. Leaders who chase achievements often create pressure, but leaders who invest in people create possibility. Achievements are milestones, but people are multipliers. A project ends when it is finished, but a person you empower carries your influence into every corner of their life. That ripple continues far beyond your reach. Legacy through people requires intentionality. It means taking the time to mentor, to teach, to listen. It means seeing potential in someone before they see it in themselves. It means prioritizing their growth, even when it doesn't immediately serve your own goals. True leaders understand that their success is proven not by what they alone accomplish, but by what others accomplish because of them. The greatest leaders are rarely remembered for the numbers they hit. They are remembered for the doors they opened. They are remembered for the belief they instilled in people who thought they weren't capable. They are remembered for the courage they gave to those who were afraid. These are the markers of a legacy that lives in people, not achievements. Not achievements. Focusing on people also shifts the culture of leadership. When others see that growth and development matter more than personal glory, they too begin to invest in one another. This creates a cycle where leadership is multiplied, not hoarded. Not hoarded. An achievement can elevate one leader, but investing in people elevates an entire generation. Achievements can be rewritten, replaced, or forgotten as time moves forward. But the story someone tells about how a leader changed their life cannot be erased. It becomes part of their identity, part of their journey, part of the way they themselves lead others. That is the kind of legacy that compounds endlessly. To measure legacy in people is to choose impact over image. It is to understand that the ultimate success of leadership is not found in what you leave behind in the world, but in who you leave behind to carry the work forward.